Climbers. We talk a lot about becoming a pro, but what does it mean to become a songwriting pro? Is it more than just getting a cut? We're going to talk about that today on The Climb, so listen up.
Welcome to The Climb! This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you get leverage in the music business. That's what it's going to take. A track record. You're going to need to create leverage through business, through execution. It's about what you've done, not what you can do or what they think you can do. It's not about your potential. It's like, I got these cuts. I don't need a publishing deal. I've got this amount of business going, this amount of fans, this amount of records, this amount of tickets sold. And everybody's going to come to you. That's why we call it The Climb. C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business, right? It's not just a pretty face right there. It's not just a pretty face with a hat, a beard, and a set of headphones on. He's more than that. He's got something going on up there in that coconut. That's my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who came up with that Baxternym. Brent's a hit songwriter. He's got cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. Had a couple Southern gospel number ones in the last 18 months, I believe. Is that right? 18 months?
I don't even do the math. I have no idea.
And of course you don't. And that's my job as the hype man. I'm your hype man. And what I love about Brent is he helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then he connects you with the pros so you can create the relationships with the producers, the A&R people, the songwriters, the artists, and make miracles happen and take that next step. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. Listen, if you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production, singular, no S, and there's no S because there is no other Johnny D.
That's right, baby. No S, one D. There you go. You heard?
Right.
You heard? What's happening, man?
Man, just I'm looking forward to getting into this. Last week, we, I guess my last episode, so 2 weeks ago, we dove into The Resistance. From Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art. And this week, I'm going to dive some more into that book. It's a great book about, okay, that's the resistance. That's the enemy. Who's the hero here? What does it mean to be pro and to turn pro? So we're going to dive into that today.
Love it, man. Before we do that, let's take care of a little business here. Join the Climb community. It's facebook.com/groups/the Climb community. You have to ask to be let in. We let everybody in, so don't worry about that. It's just a minor velvet rope, you know. But make sure you read the rules before you get in and know that we want to hear about your gigs. We want to hear about your new song. We want to hear about the wins. We want to hear about it all. And we have a place for you to put it. And guess where it's not? It's not in the feed. It's in the comment section of a few posts. That's all you got to know. Simple rules, man. We don't like a lot of them. I mean, I'm all rock and roll. We don't like rules.
That's right.
Structure. He's going to wing it, baby.
This is not why we got into this. Yeah.
But we got to keep the house clean. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So speaking of wins, what we got going on there?
Yeah. So every Wednesday we post the New Heights segment because it's on brand. It's climbing new heights. There you go. You can see what we're doing here. And so we encourage you to list your, share some music related wins from the past week with us. And so we can celebrate with you. And it's fun watching the comments in the community and people get to know each other better and supporting each other. It's awesome. So a couple wins. Let's see here. Steve Lombardo said, got an artist hold on a song I wrote with Michael McFarland. We song titled Challenged, a leftover lyric from a prior write, and I just wanted to show the artist the demo. Well, it turned into an accidental pitch, and the artist took it on site. He is rearranging his release schedule to cut the song and get it out by the summer. So congratulations, Steve and Michael. Heck yeah. So I want to hear more about that when it happens, when it drops. Be sure and let us know about it, but that's awesome. Song titled Challenge coming through again, baby.
I'm so stoked that they shared that. You know what I
I am
mean?
too, man. It's
Like
great.
you put that extra 15 minutes in at the beginning, and all of a sudden you got a totally different angle, and
Mhm.
now it just plugs right into your lyric ability and right into your melodic ability, and it's you just take you're more competitive. Plain and
Exactly.
simple.
So it's working for people. It's working for me. It's working for them. Love it. Let's see. Our other win for the week here that we're going to share is from Patrick Adams. He says, such good wins here this week. So he's giving everybody else big ups. Congratulations to all. We had the NSAI Anthem Challenge, Salt Lake City, last Saturday, and the chosen song to move forward was Wrong Turns Right, written by Karen Fraden and myself. Exciting stuff. So Karen and Patrick, both climbers, and their song is getting some recognition through NSAI, moving itself up the ladder there. So
Good.
congratulations, Patrick and Karen, and also for Steve and Michael and everybody else. Just keep on climbing, and thanks for sharing this stuff with us. This is cool.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Make sure you either follow or subscribe to the podcast, depending on what platform you're on. Leave a rating and review while they still let us do it. Why? Just because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And not for nothing, it's how Song Title Challenge came about, was a rating and review comment.
That's
And
right.
so you never know how you can change the course of history on account of that, right? Like if you think about that, just put this in perspective. I remember the last week that Leno was on the Tonight Show,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure how long his run was. What was it, like 20 years or something like that?
Probably something like that. He was on a long time. Yeah.
He was on a long time. And the last one they had, they opened up, the curtains, like where the band would be or whatever. They opened up the
Mm-hmm.
curtains, and it's just this like huge amount of people. And these are all the people that met and got married and had babies as a result of this show in 20 years, right? So it's like little
Nice.
kids and stuff, and they're all smiling. It's like
Mm-hmm.
because of that show, because they worked on that show, they met, fell in love, had babies, and all. I mean, it's like I don't know how many families. It was a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So I figure like that one guy who made that comment, whoever that guy was, I don't remember his name, but
Yeah.
who challenged us to write the song, and where we came up with, he's kind of like the godfather of the Song Title Challenge in a way, right? And the godfather of all those songs that are coming out now and getting
Right.
cuts, like he's kind of like it's on account of him. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
Like
Yeah. He
I'm
probably
only
didn't
here
even
on
listen.
account of my grandma and my grandpa. You know what I mean?
Exactly. He probably doesn't even listen anymore. He probably got mad that we didn't write a song on the air like he suggested.
Probably right. Isn't
So
that funny
he's
how that
probably
works?
gone.
But anyway, best thing you
Yes.
do, tell a friend about it, guys. You're spending time, you're getting value out of this. We're sharing something that's turning you on, that's blowing your skirt up, that's floating your boat, whatever metaphor you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
Share it. Tell somebody else about it. Spread the news around. That's what we want. All right.
Heck yeah.
And that's the best way you can pay it forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you got, bud? What you got?
All right. So as I mentioned in the kind of intro, Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art, Break Through the Blocks and Win Your Intercreative Battles. It's a game changer, and it's done a lot of good for me, and it's doing some good for some other climbers I know, because they mentioned it. There's so many pictures of the book cover or something like that. So I think it's pretty cool. And so last week or 2 weeks ago, my last episode, we talked about the resistance, which is, I definitely encourage you to go listen to that episode. It's episode 321, I believe.
That was a good
And
one.
it's every songwriter, you know, has this enemy, right? And breaks down kind of how the resistance works. And so this week I want to go into the other part of the book and talk about the professional, and what does a professional do, and what is a professional, how does a professional operate? And I think there's a kind of a theory or a framework I have for this. Also is called, there are two types of pros. There's the internal pro and the external pro. The external pro has the validation and the stuff that we can see, right? They have the stuff on the wall, the golds and platinums and, awards and stuff on the wall. They get the check in the mail. It's stuff that anyone can see. It's external. They're getting the validation, that sort of thing. Well, you know what? The internal pro is a pro as well. And they're the ones that have the pro work ethic, the pro mindset. They operate like a pro, because they've made that change internally. And we all have to go become an internal pro before we can become an external pro. We got
Right.
to put
Every
in the
external
work.
pro was an internal pro first.
Exactly. And continues to be, right?
Yeah.
That's what produces the external results. And so that's kind of a framework I had for myself, because when I talk about helping songwriters turn pro, that's the step, right? Is to become an internal pro, to start acting, thinking, operating like a pro, and then hopefully the external validation and stuff, that checks start coming and the stuff gets hung up on the wall, that sort of thing. So I just want to share some excerpts from this book, and then Johnny will use as launching points to chat about it, and we'll just kind of see how we can help folks out here. But I think this is really informative. So this is from Turning Your Hymnals to page 62 in the War of Art paperback version. Anyway, it's called Professionals and Amateurs. I thought this was really cool. It says, so aspiring artists defeated by resistance, so what we talked about 2 weeks ago, defeated by resistance share one trait. They all think like amateurs. They have not yet turned pro. The moment an artist turns pro is as epochal as the birth of a first child. With one stroke, boom, everything changes. I can state absolutely that the term of my life can be divided into 2 parts: before turning pro and after. To be clear, when I say professional, I don't mean doctors and lawyers like those of the professions. I mean the professional as an ideal, the professional in contrast to the amateur. Let's consider some of the differences. The amateur plays for fun, the professional plays for keeps. The amateur, the game is his avocation. To the pro, it's his vocation. The amateur plays part-time, the professional, full-time. The amateur is a weekend warrior. The professional is there 7 days a week. The word amateur comes from the Latin root word meaning to love. So the conventional interpretation of this is that the amateur pursues his calling out of love, while the pro simply does it for money. Not the way I see it. In my view, the amateur does not love the game enough. If he did, he would not pursue it as a sideline, distinct from his real, quote unquote, vocation. See, the professional loves it so much that he dedicates his life to it, and he commits full time. That's what I mean when I say turning pro. Then the resistance hates it when we turn pro. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm.
It made me think about, like dating versus marriage, I'm dating for the love, but I got married for the financial stability or whatever. It's like, no, it's like, I'm an amateur. I do it for the love. It's like saying you're just dating. The real commitment comes with the marriage. That's like, I'm in this. I'm turning
Yeah.
pro at this dating you thing, right? It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, we used to be in so much more love when we were dating. No, well, no, those people in dating are so much more in love. No, baby, I committed to you. I've gone pro with this. What are you going to say? They're just doing it for love. And what am I doing this for? It's not for the extra affection as a married man. But
That's
anyway,
right. You know what? I think about it's really fascinating to see. I've gone through it myself and I've
mm-hmm,
felt it, and then I've seen it, and it's palpable what I'm about to describe. But
mm-hmm,
so when we first got our deal, right? I mean, let's say like right out of high school, we're
mm-hmm,
playing a show at Milwaukee. We open up for the right band, Hurricane House. And Minneapolis is huge at this point. The Twin Cities are huge at this point. There's like 7 clubs paying AAA money. The music scene is a real big deal up there.
mm-hmm,
I think a lot had to do with Prince, and Purple Rain had dropped, and it became just sort of like a scene, like a really
mm-hmm,
big scene. And we ended up signing with this booking agency, and we got to go out on the road, and it was like, I remember when we first went out, like after it's like 30 days where you're out straight for like 30 days, you're
mm-hmm.
gone, you're not home. This isn't like a bunch of gigs that you go out and you come home to.
Yeah.
It's like you're out on the road,
Mm-hmm.
and we had the band, the crew, of 24-foot rider truck. It was a tour, and
Yeah.
it was a cheap tour. It wasn't a big tour. There was no bus. It wasn't cute, in the beginning, but
Yeah.
we were on frickin' tour, and for that first month, I would just be like, I can't believe that right now, all I got to do is wake up in the morning or in the afternoon
Right.
and time to get my shit together so I can go on stage and rock once more.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. I can't even believe. And then you just sort of like pinching yourself for the first couple weeks, and then it settles in the second couple weeks, and then after that, this metamorphosis happens.
Mhm.
And I remember sitting with Kelly when I was partnered up with Kelly, and we had brought Jake Bishop down, this very gifted guitar player. We brought him down from Detroit
Mhm.
when he was 17. He graduated early from high school and skedaddled it down to Nashville.
Yeah.
And he was as wound up as any 17-year-old is.
Yeah.
Just a major pain in the ass. God bless him. I love him, but it's like every kid, every teenager.
Yeah.
And but man, we put him out on the road with Anthony Oreo.
Yeah.
That's his
Mhm.
first tour, and all of a sudden he's making real money. And I remember he came back um, after being out for a month, and he was gonna meet up with us at one of the clubs downtown or something. And Kelly and I are sitting over on one side of the room. We just saw him walk in, and Kelly's like, "Wow, look at that! There's a swagger. There's a palpable swagger. It says I'm a pro." Like now
Yeah.
now it's not this concept. It's not this idea. It's like I went and I freaking did it. And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you got paid, but it's just like I did it for like a month straight. And this metamorphosis happens where you're like, okay, I am in fact a pro. And I think when it comes to like songwriting and the ideal of this and being the internal pro, um, I can't help but think that when you make that switch in your head after doing it for a certain amount of time, it just becomes cemented in there, and
Mhm.
another transformation can happen. But it's
Yeah.
it's it's palpable, like you can tell. It's unspoken. I don't know how to describe it, but
Right.
it's there. There's an energy there, and it's internal. It comes from within. Like when you really finally believe in yourself, like you prove to yourself, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like when you wrote your first song, right? When you had your first cut, when
Mhm.
you played your first gig, it's like, okay, all right, okay, all right, I survived. I can do this. Let's make it better. Let's tighten the screws.
Yeah. I like it. Pressfield, he says, someone once asked Somerset Maugham, I guess, if he wrote on a schedule or only when inspiration struck. He goes, I write only when inspiration strikes. Unfortunately, it strikes every morning at 9 o'clock sharp. That's a pro. That's a pro. Right. In terms of resistance, he was saying, I despise resistance. I will not let it phase me. I will sit down and I will do my work. And that's what a pro does. Pressville goes on to talk about how we're all pros already. Like if you have a climber, if you have a day job, all of us are pros in one area, our jobs. We get a paycheck, we work for money, we're professionals. Now, there are principles we can take from what we're already successful at doing in our workaday life and apply that to our artistic aspiration. So let's take a look at this. So for those of you that are day jobbing, guess what? You're already a pro, right? One, we show up every day. We might do it only because we have to keep from getting fired, but we do it. We show up every day.
Hmm.
So that's one thing. Two, we show up no matter what. If sickness and in health come hell or high water, we stagger into the factory. We might do it only so as not let down our coworkers or for other less noble reasons, but we do it. We show up basically no matter what. We show up every day and we show up even when we're not feeling like it, right?
Hmm.
Number three, we stay on the job all day long. Our minds may wander, but our bodies remain at the wheel. We pick up the phone when it rings. We assist the customer when he seeks our help. We don't go home till the whistle blows.
Hmm.
So, we show up. We show up every day, no matter what, and we stay on the job. Number four, we're committed over the long haul. So next year, we may go to another job, another company, another country, whatever, but we'll still be working. Until we hit the lottery, we're part of the labor force. So we're in it for
Hmm.
the long haul. Number five, the stakes for us are high and real. This is about survival, like feeding our families, educating our children. It's about eating. So the stakes are high and real with our day jobs, right?
Hmm.
Number six, we accept remuneration for our labor. We're not here for fun. We work for money. All right.
That's right.
I mean, I've had day jobs like, how's the job? I say, oh, they got to pay me to show up. That's how my
Yeah.
job is. How's the job going? They literally have to pay me to show up. We have a deal. They stop paying me, I stop showing up. Simple as that. I've definitely felt that way about jobs I've had in the past. Number 7, we don't over identify with our jobs. We may take pride in our work and we may stay late and come in on the weekends, but we recognize that we are not our job description. The amateur, on the other hand, over identifies with his avocation, his artistic aspiration. He defines himself by it. He is a musician, a painter, a playwright. Resistance loves this because the resistance knows that the amateur composer will never write his symphony because he's overly invested in its success and he's terrified by its failure. The amateur takes it so seriously it paralyzes him. Whereas a pro is like, another day, showing up, time to make the donuts, right? So just a couple more real quick. We mastered the techniques of our jobs. We have a sense of humor about our jobs, right? Day jobs, we're
Yeah.
all kind of making fun of it and can see the ridiculousness in it. And 10, we receive praise or blame in the real world. Okay, so
Yeah.
now consider the amateur, the aspiring painter, the wannabe playwright. How does he pursue his calling? 1, he doesn't show up every day. 2, he doesn't show up no matter what. 3, he doesn't stay on the job all day. He is not committed over the long haul. The stakes for him are illusory and fake, right? He does not get money, and he over identifies with his art. He does not have a sense of humor about failure. You don't hear him griping, this freaking trilogy is killing me. Instead, he just doesn't write the trilogy at all, right?
Yeah.
That's when you know you're pro. Man, this tour is killing me. The amateur just
Yeah.
doesn't go on tour. They just like, well, I'm just not doing that tonight. I'm not feeling it. The pro is the one that gets to gripe about the work, right?
Yeah.
So the amateur has not mastered the technique of his art, nor does he expose himself to judgment in the real world. If we show our song to a friend and our friend says, oh, it's wonderful, I love it. Well, that's not real world feedback. That's your friend being nice to you. Nothing is as empowering as real world validation, even if it's for failure. Like
Yeah.
that's when you start stepping into professionalism. When you hold your baby up and go, you're not my mama, but what do you think about it? You're not my friend, but
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about my baby, my piece of art, my song, my performance, my whatever it is? He goes on to tell the story about his first professional screenwriting gig. It was on a movie called King Kong Lives. He just knew it was going to be a blockbuster. Even after he saw the finished film, he thought King Kong Lives is going to be a monster. This is going to be so great. He invited everybody he knows to the premiere, right? And
He goes from King Kong lives to
yes,
go on.
it. He goes, well, let's see what he says here. He went to the see the premiere, rented out the joint next door for the post Triumph blowout. Get there early. We warned our friends the place is going to be mobbed. Yeah, nobody showed up. There's only one guy in line beside our guest, and he was muttering something about spare change. Anyway, in the theater, our friends endured the movie. The lights came up. They fled like cockroaches into the night. Like the friends didn't want to like have to tell them like that sucked, dude. Right? They just scatter.
Like a
And
whomp, whomp,
yeah,
whomp.
exactly. So this is his first like professional gig, right? The next day came the review and Variety. Ronald Shusett, I guess, just something, and Stephen Pressfield. We hope these are not their real names for their parents' sake. When the first week's grosses came out, it barely even registered. So anyway, basically it sucks, right? It was a failure. He goes, I was crushed. Here I was, 42 years old, divorced, childless, having given up all normal human pursuits to pursue the dream of being a writer. Now I finally got my name on a big time Hollywood production starring Linda Hamilton. And what happens? I'm a loser, a phony. My life is worthless, and so am I. My friend Tony Koppelman snapped me out of it by asking if I was going to quit. Well, hell no. Just, well, then be happy. You're where you wanted to be, aren't you? So you're taking a few blows. That's a price for being in the arena and not on the sidelines. Stop complaining and be grateful. That was when I realized I had become a pro. I had not yet had a success, but I had had a real failure.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
It's like, look, you go up to your first at bat when you're in the show, your first time Major League Baseball, and you strike out. You still have to say, I just freaking struck out. Like
I
in
struck
Major
out in the
League
major leagues,
Baseball.
baby.
That's right.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I remember one of those things for me was when I first moved to Nashville. I've been making some trips, getting to know some people over at RPM. music. So thankful for Norman DeVasure over there, who, some guys from Little Rock would take me over there. And so I got to know Norman a little bit. He was there at the time. And then about the time I left, I moved to Nashville. He left to do his own thing, but I knew Tracy Jewell over there. Because, once you get into a spot, make sure to meet other people in the office, because people are going to leave, and then you'll know someone at two places, right? People at two places.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I set up a meeting with Tracy, and went in, I'd send her some songs or whatever. I went in to go play her some stuff, and I played her the song that I wrote with my buddy Tim Meitzen called When God Made You. And so I just hit town, and she's like, "Oh, I know this song. I played this for Tim." I'm like, McGraw? She's like, "Yeah, he passed." I was like, "Tim McGraw heard my song? He passed?"
Yeah. Wait,
That's freaking awesome.
Go back to the who you played it for part again. Hold on. Wait, what was that?
Say that again. You played my little bitty song for Tim McGraw. I was so pumped after that meeting. Yeah, he passed. It was a I guess you could call it a failure. So you could see it in that. But dude, I was in the game. I didn't even know my song was in the game. It was in the game. It was in the big leagues, right? He could have heard it and loved it and cut it and singled it. It was in the game. That was not a failure. That was a success. Failing on a higher level than I'd ever failed before. Slow clap for me, right?
That's right.
I failed with more at stake. That's awesome. And you gotta look at that. If you want to be a pro, I didn't, so in a way I was a pro that day because I had a song in the game. Duking it out and getting passed on, just like Craig Wiseman probably got a song passed on that day by McGraw. Eventually Craig would have plenty not passed on, right, by McGraw. I'd already had hits by him. But that day he probably got passed on a song too. It was in the same bucket. Yeah. Sweet. So I think that's really important to look at that. And it's not just when the first check comes in the mail. It's not when you get something to hang on the wall. It's not when you get to quit your day job to turn pro as a songwriter. Man, you make that switch internally before you get to make that switch externally.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? It's like understand and appreciate and acknowledge and celebrate the steps, right? Like the steps, like turning, having a degree of success is a dark staircase. You cannot see the top. You can only see the next step, and as Martin Luther King said, you just have to have faith and take the next step. Yeah. And so, that when I was given that analogy about like our first tour, I mean, we were, because here's how it happens. Sometimes you don't have to take one step at a time. Sometimes you get to bound them up two at a time, because when we were just trying to get into T.A. Vern's, man, that was the club that had the most amount of radio ads on the radio. So to us, that was the coolest club, because if you played that club, your name would be on the radio.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't we want to do that club? Like, of course, that's what we were trying to get into. And we had tried this one time and we had failed because we actually got the opportunity. Our bass player is a douchebag and was like disappeared for the lost weekend with his stupid girlfriend.
Yeah.
And so we had to say no when we, after all that work that we did to get in there. And I am not kidding. This owner was a douchebag, the guy that owned the club, total douche, right? And so that one stung. And then we got the second one, but it was all supposed to work out the way it was supposed to work out, because then we finally got into the second one. And then literally we went we played that club one time, and that was our next step. Like, we just need to play that club and get there. And then that's going to be like, that's where we're going to contemplate what the next step's going to be. Well, we played that one gig and went right to Minneapolis after that. That's awesome. It took us a year to come back and a whole lot of BS to get into that club because the owner was such a douche, just so we could play home again. You know what I mean? But I mean, that was like, so it's like, but to get into that club, like, and we were doing sophisticated stuff, like in terms of rock and roll, like Queensryche and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and stuff that, this was harder stuff. And it was like more musician, like Rush, more, a little bit more sophisticated musically. And and that's what they love. But we did it really, really, really freaking well because we
Yeah.
rehearsed like all the time because we were interested in being good. You know,
Well,
we wanted
that's
to melt your face.
well, that's one of the things Pressel talks about. A professional dedicates himself to mastering technique. The professional respects his craft, right? He does not consider himself superior to the craft. He recognizes the contributions of those who've gone before him, and he apprentices himself to them. The professional dedicates himself to mastering technique, not because he believes technique is a substitute for inspiration, but because he wants to be in full possession of the or be in possession of the full arsenal of skills when inspiration does come. The
Mhm.
professional is sly. He knows that by toiling beside the front door of the technique, he leaves room for genius to enter by the back. So, which I love that what he said about he knows is no substitute for inspiration, but wants to be in possession of the full arsenal of skills when inspiration does come. I mean, you hear those stories about like Tammy Wynette wrote, you know, Stand By Your Man in 15 minutes or whatever. Or you
Yeah.
hear Tony Arata wrote The Dance like in a laundromat or something, like, in like 30 minutes or an hour. You
Is
hear
that
these
true?
stories. I may be getting them mixed up, but
Okay.
something like that. Yes. So, and you've said it before, Johnny, like, no, it didn't take them 30 minutes to write that song. It took them their whole lives plus 30 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the deal. That's why you keep working on the craft, even on the days when you're like, that's part of the song title challenge that I do for myself is like, I'm limited on the ideas I can work on that day, the titles, because that's how I, just chunk it out 20 titles, pick one. May not be a diamond in that, in that list, but I'm gonna do my reps because that way, when the idea does hit and the idea is right, I'm geared up, I'm warmed up to come off the bench and catch that home run or catch that home run, catch that long bomb, hit that home run, that sort of thing. Like the machinery is up and running. That's the thing. If you wait, that's the danger of waiting for inspiration. By the time that stroke hits, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired. This is an amazing idea. I just got the idea for the house that built me. You're not going to write it that well because you haven't put in the work to master your technique over all those songs. When you haven't been like slayed by your idea, you've still been working and learning how to put songs together so that when that magical idea does happen to you, you know what to do with it. You've been preparing for this moment for years. And I think that's super important. It's like, yeah, that's why I show up on days and not every song is going to be a cut, is not every song is going to be a hit, but you know what it's doing. So the professional steps away from their stuff, doesn't over identify with every song and live and die by every song. Part of it just pro knows, all right, I'm doing my reps, I'm staying warmed up. It's like the backup quarterback. you know Not every song
Yeah.
is in the game starting, but man, I'm warming up, I'm practicing like I'm going to be the starter this week, and I'm on the sidelines with my gear on, strapped up, ready to go, warmed up, because if the starting quarterback goes down, I can go right in because I don't know when it's going to be called upon. That's like when the inspiration for the killer idea shows up, or that killer title shows up, or that amazing co-write happens. Man, it's like, all right, I've been preparing for this. I'm just going to go out and do what I've been doing every other day. Only this one, it's just a killer idea. But it's all right. I'm going to treat it like all the others because I play like I practice.
Man, do you know who Glenn Duncan is?
Oh, Glenn Duncan. Yeah, that name's really familiar. Tell me.
So this is the
Musician?
cat. Yeah, this is the cat that played the fiddle on uh, John Denver's Country Roads,
Oh,
right?
cool. Mm-hmm.
And he's played on everything. I mean, everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? He goes that far back, right? Old dude, super sweet guy, great stories. I've done countless sessions with him, and literally, because look at Nashville is like this machine,
Mm-hmm.
so the players know when they got to be there in time to set up, get everything done, settle down, grab a cup of coffee, get
Mm-hmm.
ready for work. They're all extremely professional. So this is in no way a poor reflection of the other players, but every freaking session, I come walking into the studio. Glenn Duncan's in the booth,
Mm-hmm.
warming up, doing scales. He's there like before everybody else, man.
Yeah.
always before everybody else. As soon as the door opens, when one of the assistants gets there and opens the door to the studio or whatever, Glenn Duncan's in there.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
Like, what are you doing
wow.
here? Because you've been here as in top of the game before anybody else that's in here. Right?
But he just such is so dedicated
Mhm.
to the, it's like the basketball player that just never stops shooting 400 shots, you know?
Yeah.
There was a great, I wish I was trying to find it on my phone, but there's a great story about Kobe Bryant and this one dude who was like all jazz because he was going to have his first attempt to play against Kobe Bryant. It was kind of like is this NBA guy is a big hero, whatever. And so he's like, I don't know. I'm screwing up the story, but essentially, this guy was going to go hit the court really, really freaking early before the game and get 400 shots in, 400 made shots
Uh-huh.
in, right? And then he was going to go and go and get ready for the game. But he was just this guy's going to play against Kobe. He says, so I get my workout clothes on, I go out there and I hear a ball bouncing,
Yeah.
and it's freaking Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And so then I'm there and I'm doing 400 shots. So I'm there for a while and Kobe's still there. He's still there. He's still there. And then finally I make my 400 shot. I walk off the court. I'm walking out and Kobe's, he's just getting off the court then. And then there's some kind of thing that they had afterwards. And he's like, man, what were you doing? He's like, well, I knew you were going to be there. So I said, I had to be better than you. I'm going to work harder than you,
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm Kobe Bryant. I'm freaking Kobe Bryant. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I'm at the top, baby. But I'm
Yeah.
not going to let you outwork me. Like that's not going to be. I can't deal with that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's why I'm at
Like,
the top.
yeah,
That's awesome.
that's pro.
That is pro. That's great. Let's see. Let's look at some others here. A professional accepts no excuses. Here's one we like. The amateur, underestimating Resistance's cunning, permits the flu to keep him from his chapters. He believes the serpent's voice in his head that says that mailing off that manuscript is more important than doing the day's work. The professional has learned better. He respects Resistance. He knows if he caves in today, no matter how plausible the context, he'll be twice as likely to cave in tomorrow. The professional knows that Resistance is like a telemarketer. If you so much as say hello, you're finished. The pro doesn't even pick up the phone. He stays at work. So I like that. Just, you know what?
That's
I got to do my
awesome.
work. Got to do my work. Got to do my work. I also like the professional plays it as it lays. He says, my friend Hawk and I were playing the first hole at Prestwick in Scotland. The wind was howling out of the left. So I started an 8-iron 30 yards to windward, but a gale caught it. I watched in dismay as the ball sailed hard right, hit the green going sideways and bounded off into the cabbage. Son of a whatever. I turned to our caddy. Did you see the wind take that shot? Well, he gave that look that only Scottish caddies can give. Well, you got to play it. You got to play the wind now, don't you? You got to play it to the wind now, don't you? See, the
That's right.
professional conducts his business in the real world. Adversity, injustice, bad hops and rotten calls, even good breaks and lucky bounces all comprise the ground over which the campaign must be waged. The field is level, the professional understands, only in heaven. The field is
Yeah.
level only in heaven. And we got to play
Yeah.
the wind. Oh, but you got to know somebody. Oh, so-and-so got on that because Cole Swindell was fraternity brothers with Luke Bryan, or so-and-so was in, so-and-so's band for a while, or they get in all the rooms and just know everybody. How am I going to, get on a record when they're sucking up all the energy and getting on all their songs on records? I guess you got to play the
Yeah.
wind too. We all do.
Well, I mean, not for nothing. Like back to where you started with this whole thing with you're a pro because you show up to your job, you do it every day, blah 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 blah. Half the people that are listening to this podcast right now who have that day job got that day job because of a recommendation or some sort of connection with somebody else.
Yeah.
Whether it's frickin' McDonald's or you're the CEO of some corporation, I mean, somebody's like, hey man, this is a good gig for you. You should try out. Like that's the way the world works in everything. Hello.
For sure.
Hello. You wouldn't be married if it wasn't for the fact that your buddy had a sister.
Exactly.
Not
And
sure how I feel about that, Brent. Like, I'm glad my sisters are young. No, I'm just kidding. No.
yeah. He thought his sister was
But
young
you know what
enough
I'm
to be
saying?
safe
Like, there it
too.
is. There it's a relationship that you had that led to
Mhm.
meeting your wife, that led to this beautiful
Yeah.
marriage and these children and this whole thing. Like, like, that is the dumbest, dumbest, weakest freaking excuse ever.
Mhm. Well, that's the thing. You know how many people, to my understanding, Ashley Gorley knew when he moved to Nashville? Ashley Gorley, by the way, if you don't know, has had over 50 number one hits as a country songwriter. So
I'm gonna say
written
0.
over 50. That's my understanding. Is like he basically knew nobody.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry, what's your excuse again? You don't know anybody? Oh, great. Yeah.
Yep,
Well, you know how many people I knew until I knew somebody in the business? Zero.
yep.
You know, everybody knew zero people in the business until they knew somebody in the business.
That's right.
Just like nobody will believe in your song until somebody finally does.
Yeah.
Okay, well, go from 0 to 1. That's what we got to do. Maybe that's your goal for this week, is to go from 0 to 1. And like, I haven't ever even talked to anyone in the business. Okay, well, how can you go from 0 to 1 this week? But thing is, the professional knows that, like, yeah, if you look at a pro ball player, they know that, oh, we got to go play in, I don't know, what the NBA playoffs are going on right now, and the Bucks know they got to go play in Chicago, and the
Mhm,
crowd's going to be hostile.
mhm.
Do you hear them?
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
an excuse?
How
Is
about the
that
Bears coming to Green Bay when I'm at a game and it's a
that's
night game,
hostile?
so I'm lit up like a Christmas tree? That is hostile because oh my god, Kelly and I went to one of those games and just Robbie Gold, man, tore into he's the kicker for for Chicago.
Yeah.
And we're on the Chicago side and he's just practicing his kicks. And we're like, you suck, Gold. The Bears suck. Your mama must be disappointed that, we're just laying into him. And there's like 5 guys in a row. I know Kelly. That's all I know, but we don't care. It is the definition of hostile. Like,
Now, did the kicker, did Robbie Gold, did he like go back down in the tunnel and refuse to come out and kick if they needed it?
oh, there's a couple times where we came
No.
up with a couple of good ones, and so we just saw the head drop a little bit, like, oh,
That was a pretty
like,
good one.
you just
Yeah.
know he's like, God, I hate coming to Green Bay. Like,
Yeah. But you know what? He comes to Green Bay and he plays the Wind and
yeah,
it's
that's
cold.
right. Yeah,
He's from Chicago, so whatever.
and he's
But
getting paid. He's getting
he's
paid
getting
major
paid,
bucks
so he
to be their
shows
kicker.
up. Do you hear kicker come back to the sidelines and go, "Sorry, coach, it was windy." He's like, "Yeah, it's been
Yeah,
windy all game. You didn't know that? But
because
it's
you got to
windy.
play
I
into
I
win
kicked
now.
my kick. I kicked my kick, and it's not my fault. It's windy. Adjust to the freaking wind.
Uh-huh.
That's what we all got to do." But I like to write 90s style country. That's nice. You got to play the wind. You got to play it as it lays, right? Okay. Well, you know what? That's not exactly what we're doing these days. So if you want to get cuts, you can't just go, well, I'm just going to hit it where I'd hit it as if it weren't windy. It's windy. You got to
Mhm.
adjust. And a professional will adjust because we
Yeah.
don't overly identify with our work. It's like, okay, if I only identified and I was so like focused on, I am a country songwriter. Now I take pride in being a country songwriter. I love that, right? I can hold
Mhm.
my head up and go, I'm a country dang songwriter. I love that. But you know what? If I was so tied to that, would I have any cuts and hits in Southern gospel under my belt at this point? Probably not, because I'd have been too proud, too overly identified with I'm a country songwriter to walk into that room with Jason and Kenna, who are amazing at what they do, and help drag my sorry butt across the finish line a couple times with some number ones in that world, or
Yeah.
bluegrass, or whatever it is. And I remember talking to Bart Butler when I first started working in the business, and I was, working part time at Blue Water Music, and Bart Butler was there, and he was one of the, on the creative side, like one of the song players. And I remember something came up, and I was kind of overhearing something, and he was like, yeah, I write country songs, but I write anything. I'll write rap, I'll write rock, whatever. I'm a songwriter. I remember him saying that, and that just always kind of
What kind of
struck
song you
me.
need writ?
Yeah, well, I write anything. I'm a
What you need wrote?
songwriter. Yeah, I write anything. I'm a songwriter. You know, by the way, if that name kind of sounds vaguely familiar, he produces John Party now. You know,
yeah.
and writes with John and gets cuts and hits and producing stuff. You know, okay. And John's not the only one he's producing either. So I guess that kind of attitude works. And so I consider myself, I'm a songwriter. All right. Country, all right. Christian, you know, CCM, Southern Gospel, bluegrass, hip hop, whatever it is, you know, there's certain things I focus on because knowing the realities of situation, how it lays and where the wind is blowing and what my skill sets are, makes sense to write certain things more than others. But
Sure.
I'm a songwriter. I don't overly identify with, I write 90s style country songs. I'm a traditional country songwriter. I don't write this new stuff. Dude, I'm a writer. I write. And my job is to write stuff that makes money. You know?
Yeah.
So therefore I can't be so precious about my little product. Like whatever I'm writing, I'm going to write it to the best of my ability. I'm going to try and write a great version of it and where it's well crafted, because also I want to honor the craft, the technique, and take that very seriously. But when I apply that craft and technique to, I don't over identify with it. And to me, it's fun to go, oh, yeah, this week I may be writing bluegrass, Southern Gospel, country, CCM. Why? Because I'm a songwriter.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about as well. Are you so identifying with a certain style, a certain genre, that you don't let yourself step outside of that, or you're letting yourself become a dinosaur? You know, you're taking yourself out of the commercial marketplace because you so identify with this one little thing that I do. That's what I love, and that's what songwriters are supposed to do, that you take yourself out of the game before you're ever really in it. So I'd take some stock of that and just make sure that you're being open enough and giving yourself enough credit. Maybe some of that comes from fear that I can't do that other stuff. I can't learn that other stuff because I'm not 18 anymore. And so therefore I can't write pop music because I'm not 18. Maybe that's fear. Maybe that's just resistance.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are my thoughts on that. Again, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Stephen with a V. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. My name's Stephen with a V. So, sorry, Moon Knight reference. Check it out. The War of Art. It's a great one. It's a game changer. And yeah, you can go pro before you get that first cut. You probably have to go pro before you get that first cut. And so I just want to encourage you all to do that. And listen, if you're interested in turning pro, I want to help you do that. I want to help you turn pro by teaching you how to write like a pro, how to do business like a pro. And also, I'm happy to connect you to the pros when the time is right. You can find out more about that at songwritingpro.com/inside or songwritingpro.com/gift. I have a gift for you called Think Like a Pro Songwriter, and that's going to help you become that internal pro that gets you on your path to become an external pro. So that's just, you can get that at songwritingpro.com/gift, or just go to the main page. It's right there up at the top. So that's what I got for today.
Awesome. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another killer C.L.I.M.B episode. Make sure you join the C.L.I.M B community. Make sure you follow or subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you leave a rating and review. Make sure you tell a friend. This podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.